Okay, it's me again. I'm gonna leapfrog after the last video, so it's gonna have to do with psychedelic mushrooms again. And a very interesting experience that I had after that last one. It very, very powerful, interesting. I've never had these things happen. I was not expecting what happened. So bear with me. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right in. So I'm at home. It's at night. I'm alone, and I get the idea, hey, I'm gonna eat a mushroom. Just one, just one. One simple mushroom. So I eat the mushroom. It starts to kick in at some point. You get like these funny visuals, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, and I'm there. And so I'm like, I'm probably gonna eat another one, this would be a good idea. So I take out another mushroom. I picked it from the bag. And I remember that going into this experience, I asked the mushroom before I even consumed the first one. I'm like, I want you to show me what I need to see, show me what I need to see. I don't know, bring me where this brings me. So anyway, first mushroom is doing its effect, and then I thought I wasn't really high, and then I took another mushroom. But before taking the second one, I was just holding it in my hands, and I started to like rub the stem of it, and strangely, like my high obviously kicked back in ish. And I was hearing, I started hearing like, I don't know, I'm gonna call them the mushroom people. It was like a shaman type entity. So I'm rubbing the mushroom, and it's like the mushroom is literally, the more I hold it and play around with it, and it changes positions in my hand, and like it's talking to me, literally talking to me, telling me all kinds of stuff about healing, and a lot of that first one was talking to me about actual shamanism and how they do it, how they communicate with the planet, how it's like certain plant medicines, they're like portals, and each part of the country of the world has its own different plant medicine portal thing going on, and a lot about shamanism. And I had lots of different shamans come in, maybe two or three on that mushroom, different entities that I really felt like there was like a being communicating knowledge to me. One of them felt like he was more, and definitely male presence. One of them was definitely uh one of them was Amazonian. One of them was like desert type, desert shaman, like Arizona desert type. It's hard, like, because I'm trying to like do like this trip report after the fact, and I don't want to miss any important points, but they're explaining to me like while I'm holding this mushroom in my hands, and it's like it feels like I'm actually communicating through my skin with the mushroom. It's so messed up, but it's not messed up. It makes perfect sense while it's happening, right? So there was so much that was explained about healing, shamanism, how they go about. There was a lot explained about the hypersensory kick that it puts you into. They actually explained why I had a bad trip when I did them on my land, because I took too much of a big dose, and it kicked me into hypersensory disorder, and I had no guides. Everything just went wonky, and it was just too much. And apparently, what they were saying is there's no it's not the quantity of mushrooms that you ingest, it's how you ingest them, and the ritualistic process, and what you're seeking that actually makes a difference. So after the mushroom was done talking to me, because I actually got to a point where it's like, okay, I got all of the message out of it. It's so weird to explain this, and I know some people will get it. Some people like, what the fuck, she's fucked. So at the end, I'm letting the mushroom tell me, like, the people are communicating, like, feels like it's ancestral spirits and whatnot. And they're telling me like, okay, now you're gonna take the mushroom and you're gonna break it apart with your fingers. You have to use your fingers, no scissors, don't do that. So they were super strict with me on that. So I'm breaking apart the mushroom, putting it in a little cup, and they're like, it's okay, each piece, the size of it, contains a bit of information that we just went over. So we're going over this like a recap, kind of like, while I'm breaking the mushroom and putting it into a cup. And at the end of that process when it's in a cup. They're like, okay, now you're going to put water in the cup, you're going to bless it, and you're going to take it in, and you're going to integrate the knowledge into your body. So, that being said, once I ingested the mushroom through that ritualistic type process, then you go through the period where it's coming into your body and you're assimilating all the information and all the digestion, and you get like belly aches and all that. It's just one mushroom, one at a time. And they kept telling me the mushroom people, I don't care if you think I'm nuts, try it. And they're saying like if you get lots of belly aches, it's because it's a lot of information to take in. You're taking in a lot of info, and if you fight it, you're actually going to reject part of the information that you're taking in, so that you have to like just accept the bellyache, accept the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable, and just keep going with it. So by then, they told me to pick another mushroom, and I had to pick a specific mushroom. Like, I couldn't just randomly get whichever mushroom, like just pick one out of the bag. I had to like look at them, and literally like they guided me towards which one to pick. So I went through a process of, I'd say 2 or 3 mushrooms like this, where it was the same sort of process, where I had to pick the mushroom, I had to hold it, listen to it, and it would guide me through different things. One of the mushrooms was guiding me towards different parts in the house, and different things were speaking and giving messages. So one of my paintings was giving me a specific message. Like, it was really interesting to just be guided by the mushroom, to just let the mushroom tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And they were explaining how a lot of times people, they get misguided with how to do things because they don't listen to the actual guides at hand that are telling them how to do these things. And you don't need, if you do it properly and you don't go too fast and you don't overdo it, and you really listen to the guides, the mushroom guides, you shouldn't have like a bad experience per se. I don't think, at least. So, but I don't know. That's yet to be tested. So that being said, one of the last mushrooms that I had in my hands, okay, this was a big kicker because Eric woke up at night, he was sleeping, he got upset because he loves doing mushrooms, and I took mushrooms without him, but he was sleeping, and I was like, he's not gonna get up. And my plan was never to take a bunch of mushrooms either. It was just to eat one of them and just to relax and just enjoy the night, So I didn't know the mushrooms were gonna lead me down a path of very interesting knowledge. And in the beginning, it was very like Alice in Wonderland type, where I had to like just be alone with myself at the beginning of the high, and just be weird, I had to just be weird. I had to be like the weird version of me that I didn't know I had. Like, not that version of me, at least, because I know a lot of weird versions of me, but I didn't have that one. I didn't know that one. So I had to sit with myself, and really become acquainted with the unexpectedness that this was gonna bring. So anywho, Eric gets up, he's upset, super not in a good mood. I did mushrooms without him. I felt super terrible, and I was visibly, probably very high, even though I didn't feel like it was that high, but I probably was. But anywho, I sat with him, we talked. I felt very empathetic towards him, very, 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 like, I felt so bad, and I was like, oh my God, this is, yeah, like, he's totally allowed to be mad at me for this, like, I could have woke him up, I could have done 1,000,001 things, but it's like, at the same time, I was just going with what the mushrooms were telling me, and they were saying, like, apparently I needed to do this thing alone because I needed to get acquainted with the mushrooms, and to listen to them, because in the beginning, I do remember there was a time I had music, and there was even a moment where I was listening to videos, like Brian Scott videos, in the early beginning, I forgot to mention that, and at one point, it's like, nope, shut all the music off, shut everything off, listen, just listen, and feel everything, because you go into this hypersensory mode, where the hypersensory kicks in, and like all your senses just go up. And then they were showing me like shamans, how they like eat mushrooms or take whatever they're taking in doses, and they bring themselves up to this level. And then when they're in this hypersensory, they go into like the knowledge of everything, and they're one with it. So the hypersensory disorder that we sometimes see in modern day society, and how they do it, and of course they're not like in cities and all that, but they become one with it, and they get acquainted with the hypersensory part of it, and they're really on a different level of understanding, and they communicate with the earth communicates back to them, and it's like this whole process. Okay, so anywho, back to Eric. So anyway, we decide to go to bed, and I have this mushroom in my hands, because I had pulled out a mushroom right before he come out, and like I had it in my hands. And anywho, long story short, that mushroom, I held on. Like I must have had that mushroom in my hands for 2 hours, like touching it and getting information out of it. And I would change hands, and like I had to feel the mushroom. The mushroom, if it was uncomfortable, it wasn't going to tell me much. Like I had to get it comfortable. I had to touch it. Like even if I had to maneuver it a bunch of different ways and turn around and get comfortable and all that, like I had to literally listen to the mushroom by all means. And then that's when all the juicy shit happened. The juicy shit happened in that portion of the room. I saw so many colors. Like this turned into like almost a DMT trip, but not like the so mechanical part. Like there was a lot of divine feminine in this, a lot of nature, and a lot of like Aztec Mayan images, and I was like, oh my god, it's like the Aztecs and the Mayas. And then the shaman, actually it was a female mushroom, this one, because it was female guides that I got during the last one, and she was saying, well, yeah, what do you think they've been painting? What do you think they've been representing? They were representing what they see while they're in these higher states of understanding. And I was like, oh my god, like, duh. I felt kind of retarded, but very humbling experience, because I had in that last trip, it was about, I'd say a 2 hour at least, I think, where I was in the bed, like getting info out of the mushroom. And there's no way I can go completely through the entire experience, but they basically walked me through the whole divine feminine aspect, that I had in a box, that I was keeping in a box. And they walked me through like the masculine principle and the divine feminine, and how they work together, and what is the feminine? What is the feminine principle? Well, basically the feminine principle, they're like the goddess, the mothers. They're the mothers of the earth. So I had a couple different women goddesses, I guess, shaman women that came in through that 2 hour experience. And one of them was saying, well, yeah, what do you think? Like, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. There's so much that happened. So they're like, yeah, healing has no schedule. Healing has no schedule. Pain has no schedule. Knowledge has no schedule. Learning has no schedule. Experience has no schedule. There's no schedule for this. You don't have a schedule. It happens when it happens. And that's how you have to dance with it. You have to learn how to dance with the unpredictability of the chaos that is the divine feminine principle, where the male principle is like the solidity. It's like the engineer, it's in a box. It fits. Everything is structurally solid and it makes sense. And it's very more mathematical. I compare it more to an engineer, definitely, the masculine principle. But you have to have both. And each individual on the planet has both principles within them. And we learn to navigate that. And the feminine principle, she kept going back to like, well, yeah, it's like, they had to have me sit through my migraines. I had migraines, and this was leapfrogging after the last experience that had to do with your feminine, your divine feminine is in a box and it's creating pressure and it's giving you migraines, and all the anxiety. They had me sit through anxiety and migraines and sit through the pain, and they were like, you think you can run away from this pain? The pain isn't going anywhere. And they were saying how it's like when you give birth. You're like super labor. And I know I had 4 kids and I had 3 of them naturally. I know. So they were giving the example of like when you're giving birth, It is the most crazy, excruciating pain that you can imagine. And it's like, you can't run from it. You can't, you can resist it, and it ain't going to get any better if you do. But you can't run from that pain. You have to, like, do something in the moment. Like, you're giving birth. Like, it's... So, what do you have to do when you give birth? Well, you're going to get contractions that's going to lead you to even more pain. And you're not supposed to resist it. You're supposed to push with it. Push with it. So they were giving me the example of birthing, and like after that, you know, what happens? Well, you have a beautiful baby, and you know, it wasn't that bad. And so that you must understand that, you know, the feminine principle is many, many things. I thought it was more like, you know, girly stuff, and it wasn't that at all. It had nothing to do with that. They retraced me to show me generational trauma related to how women learn how to cope, and how women learn how to survive in the world because the feminine principle is not well seen and or whatnot, and how it's women pass this down. They're the biggest kind of culprits in a way, but only because of, you know, what they had to go through in the male principle and all that. And I'm definitely not blaming anyone. I have high respect for the male principle because that's what I was using and working with my entire life up until now. I was using the male principle that I had within me. I understand very well the male principle. Everything fits in a box. It's structure. It's what keeps everything together, you know? So, anywho, we walked through anxiety. They had me sit through a lot of pain. And once you got to the... Like, when you seek to, like, run away from pain and take, like, Advil, or you're trying to get away from pain... there's no getting away from it. They were super clear and adamant about, you're not getting away from the pain. Stop resisting it. Stop resisting it. Go into the pain. Look at it. Sit with it. Feel it. And feel it all the way to the end of what you can feel. Because there's no point. Resisting it makes pain worse. Resisting it and trying to run from it and trying to block it out, it's making it worse. Go sit with it. Go look at it. And they made me trace a whole bunch of shit to, like, childhood and all that. And how when you really sit with pain and you're just feeling it, you're just feeling it, you're just feeling the pain. You get to a point where you go to the end of the pain and there's nothing else. There's just, like, you get comfort for some weird reason. You feel like a calmness, like a comfort. And there's nothing more. But when you resist it and you try to, like, change positions or find solutions, often your pain is going to just get worse. It's going to get frazzled, you know? So they were telling me that my pain is not going anywhere. Healing is not what I think. And pain is not going anywhere. And to sit with it, get to know it, get to see what that pain is trying to teach me. And it like, they brought me through the anxiety aspect and the divine feminine, and I'm very thankful. Like, some of these women, like, especially the ones that I feel like they're tribe women. I'm not sure what I don't know. They have this, like, soul presence feeling, you know. Some of them are very direct. They're like, no, stop doing this, do this. And they're like, they don't fuck around, you know. They're not what I would think. Like, I kept trying to run from stuff sometimes, and they bringing me back. No, you're going to go look at this. Walk with me. Look at this. Look at this. And then they would, like, question me on stuff that only I could answer. Like, look further. Go deeper. Go look at this. How did this make you feel? And it was all about finding the trigger that created the anxiety, and then the anxiety gets traced back to the core emotion, the what caused it. And then you got to go look at how that felt. So I had to go through every time that I was told something that went against the divine feminine principle by women. I was told I had to trust women more. But every time a woman went against her own divine feminine towards me, like, let's say, I'm trying to look for an example. Like, try and be more structured, try and be more perfect, try and be more refined, try and not make mistakes. Everything that was guided towards a very strict or rigid schedule. Schedule was the key word here. Schedule was the key word. Strict schedule. Then I had to go look at whenever there's a deadline, whenever there's a timeline, whenever my... I I felt like my cleaning in my house wasn't done. I didn't do enough, you know? It's like, it was a lot about performance and schedule, where it's fine. The masculine has to be there. But I mean, you have to have both. Both. They work together. So once I got to the end of that one, like, I can't explain every single detail of this. This went so deep, like so deep, so deep. We went through my own family generational trauma with the divine feminine and all that, and it was like nuts. Like, even males have the same thing. They have it's equal for everyone, and males, they have their own set of divine feminine lacks that they have to deal with. So, you know, they have a lot of pressures on their own side. So once I consumed that mushroom at the end, holy shit, was I in for a trip. I was in for a ride. So I'm in the living room. It's morning, daybreak, and now I didn't get the Gaia part, you know, the lower part, the shamanic visual of the earth speaking. It was very low to the ground, but very green, very, very green. And then when I was in the living room, everything was like on the ceiling, and it was all white, and like, I can't describe what I saw, but I don't know if I've ever mentioned in other videos how I see squiggly lines, and they take shape and they have form. And I don't know if it's string theory. I have no fucking idea. But the squiggly lines, they have different patterns, motions. Different days you get different results. And those squiggly lines that I always see, I was always imagining, like, oh, how does everything communicate together, you know? Because there's no actual space, and I was studying physics to help me understand these principles. But boy, when I had the feminine kick into that side of the story, was it ever worth it? Like, I could see, it was like, oh, so many beings at the same time, but wrapped into one, and three-dimensional space, and they would move, and they were like playing around with like the walls and the ceilings, and showing how they were forming it. And it's like they're like the form makers of what we see of reality, like how everything's constructed and held together. They hold the form, but it's like their male principle is the squiggly lines, but their female principle is everything that they're creating with it. And I could see faces in it. I could feel beings. Like, there was so much presence in it. It was mind-blowing, like mind-blowing. So I'm dancing around with this whole experience of like the mind, the form makers, and how I had just learned not long ago about how the Kundalini rises up from the earth, and from the and goes through the root chakra and goes up, and then you have the crown chakra that has all the information and like the downloads from cosmic, you know, infinite, intelligent infinity, and it comes down, and it's like whenever they both join and they hit at a different chakra, you can have certain blockages, or you can have certain lessons. And anyway, not going to get into that one right now, but I totally understood what I had seen as above, so below. How I'd seen the form makers and how they form reality, and I'd seen the spirits of Gaia and the earth, and how they all work together, and how everything's harmonized in such a perfect way, and how us as humans, it's like, we're like the conduits, you know? So we get healing from the earth, you know, Gaia, our mother and father Gaia, the principles of the earth that come up through us, and they're healing us and teaching us about how to be more balanced. And then as it's rising, we also have we're telling the form makers by what we want to experience. So we're like, okay, heal me. Okay, I feel better. I'm moving towards this. Now I'm giving this to the form makers. So the form makers are then taking what we're giving them, and then they're forming reality for us to experience. And it's this crazy dance of like give and take of energies and knowledge and just experience, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all about experience. And that's pretty much what it is. And oh my God, 24 minutes for all this. I was mind blown by that experience. Mind blown. I had no idea mushrooms could talk to you. And I'm no expert on the subject, but I was so humbled and so insanely amazed by that experience, like profoundly moved, that I got no words. I got no words for like I think plant medicines are the way to go to heal. Like, it feels like you do so much work in one session. And I do think there should be retreats here in Canada, in Quebec, guided retreats where people go through ritualistic processes based on their own free will, of course, to heal trauma and to heal themselves. Because honestly, I'm mind blown by how me personally, I felt very comfortable with just letting them guide me through it by not taking too much at a time and literally just respecting the process that the mushroom people were telling me. And I know some people are gonna laugh at this, but I really respect the process, and I have huge crazy respect for everything that I've experienced, and that was just one. I also had an experience last night with a much lesser dose, but I have 25 minutes already. I'm gonna cut this video off, and I'm gonna make another video on the other experience, because that one also leapfrogged off of this one, but in a much different way. So yeah, I'll get back to you on the second one. So take care, folks, and have a great weekend. Bye.